Welcome to the second point. This is where we're just going to go through and compare a bunch of characters. So, within Dracula and in Twilight, as talked before, there's a surprising amount of similarities in terms of gender and stereotypes, just not in the way that you may think. The humans in Dracula are more comparable to the vampires, or specifically the Cullen family, in Twilight. A little bit strange because monsters are suddenly much more human. But that's what I argue Stephenie Meyer's trying to get across. Even if you have people that are different, they're still human, in a sense, even when they're immortal and sparkle in the sun. First, we're going to talk about the fatherly figures of groups of men. In the Cullen family, this is Carlisle Cullen. He's a vampire, he is, quote, the most humane and the most compassionate of them all, and he's also a doctor. All of these traits, along with many other things, makes him most comparable to Dr. John Seward and Dr. Van Helsing, who share the similar qualities. Carlisle has to have a lot of self-restraint to be in the job market that he's in. When you're a vampire, you feed off blood. But when you're a doctor, you're around blood all the time. It doesn't seem to really make sense, but Carlisle has that self-restraint. And this is a big part of what makes him human and makes him not so evil. He also has a voice throughout all of it. In Stoker's novel, Count Dracula does not have self-restraint because he doesn't have a voice. We never read about Dracula's writings. We don't get anything, even though this entire novel is about him. He has no agency. He's just merely an evil force to be worked against. Carlisle Cullen has a voice, he has self-restraint, and he mimics a much more human version of something than an evil monster. Carlisle also holds this entire family together. He's the one that has brought them all together, has brought them in, even changed quite a few of the family members into vampires, more out of not being lonely anymore. So a little bit weird that he might do that. A little bit selfish. But he's still much more human. He's not violent. He's very more feminine, very quiet. He doesn't want to use his powers in any bad way. Whereas Count Dracula is not afraid to use what he has to get what he wants. Next up, we have Emmett Cullen, who is quite possibly the vampire version of Quincy Morris. They are both very strong, and they are very eager to fight and will go in guns blazing and not care in the world. Now, the interesting thing is that Morris is the American foreigner in Stoker's novel. He's from Texas, and as I've stated in class before, he is very Texas. It's wonderful. He's more than willing to be told what to do, take it to heart, and go through with the plan, as long as it helps those around him. Emmett is very much the same way. He hits the hardest, he's not afraid to put himself in the face of danger. And his primary characteristic, despite his flirtatious and joking ways, is that he is muscled like a serious weightlifter. He may come across as the most stereotypically masculine, especially when we look into the movie version, how he is portrayed by somebody that is very muscular, very manly man, macho man. Not Randy Savage, just a macho man. But he's far from holding on the masculine stereotypes and traits. Just because he's strong does not mean that he uses them for evil. He uses them for good and to help, by the end of the Twilight novel, to help save Bella from other actual evil vampires that are trying to attack her. Now, with the last two males in the Cullen family, Jasper Cullen and Edward Cullen sort of have to be combined. They're both pretty similar to Jonathan Harker, who is our main protagonist within Dracula. Both Jasper and Edward are very detail-oriented and very emotionally oriented, much like Harker is. On a very superficial level, Edward and Harker actually share a love of a certain form of art. Harker finds delight and enjoyment out of literature and other written forms of entertainment and history, while Edward absolutely loves music and CDs. He can play the piano. It's a very moving moment between him and Bella when Edward actually performs a piece for her. And all three of these men are very emotionally bound. Jasper even goes so far as to his specific vampiric power is that he can specifically manipulate emotions. Now, he doesn't use them for anything bad. He primarily uses it to calm others and make them feel at ease in awkward situations, such as when Bella first visits the Cullen household. She walks in and suddenly realizes, oh, I'm actually very calm. She looks over, Jasper's there, he understands. So through these two characters, Meyer is actually doing something akin to what Stoker has done with many of the men. She's breaking the gender norms down of masculinity and reimagining what it means to be masculine and saying that it's okay to be more feminine, more in tune with your emotions, that it's okay to show that you even have emotions at all. Though she is going a step further and going against Stoker's idea that something that is not entirely human has to be evil and animalistic. Though they are vampires, the Cullens are much more human and fit in pretty well in Forks, Washington, where they can stay out of the sun and not sparkle and give away what they are. But by giving the males in the Cullen family a separate masculine stereotype, Meyer goes on to have them work together and cooperate against a threat that's posed against Bella Swan, the human. With Bella in danger, the masculine traits come together to provide protection and support. This is exactly what Stoker did with his human males that worked together. They all had to save Mina and Dracula. But Meyer has expanded on this to reverse it, to show that masculinity can continue to be changed and should be changed, and that the best way to do this is by showing that men don't have to have all their stereotypes. It's still interesting, though, that she did this with the vampires. We are stepping out of this idea that the foreign other has to be something animalistic and evil. Here, it can be more human. They're not evil. They're just a little bit different, and they like to sparkle in the sun. And eat animals rather than humans. So maybe they're animalistic in that sense. They do prey on things, but not like Stoker's Dracula. It's a very interesting thing. I'll see you in part 3.